Hi everyone, welcome to our video tutorial. And today we're gonna learn how to make a completion type of test, specifically in problem solving. So by the way, my name is Zion Española. Together with me is Paul Anthony ESCARO. And together we will discuss the aspects to help you make your own completion type of test. So before we start, let me read to you the objectives. So at the end of this lesson, at least 75% of the students or the viewers are expected to, number 1, define what is completion type of test. Number 2, analyze the advantages and disadvantages of completion type of test. And number 3, to familiarize the guidelines in writing completion test in problem solving. So let's proceed with the discussion. What is a completion type of test? So based on the definition, the completion test is the most structured of all constructed response items, and it offers the least freedom in giving a response. The task is presented in a sentence in which a word, a number, a symbol, or a series of words has been omitted. So what are the advantages of using a completion type of test? So the first one is it is easier to prepare and less time consuming. Since in making a completion type of test, you just need to remove a term, a number, or etc. in a sentence, and now you have a completion test item. So next is it is popular and widely used. So the students are not new to this kind of test, so they will not be surprised to have this kind of questions in their test paper. And the next one is there is no scope of guesswork, and as such they are more reliable. So to compare it with a multiple choice test, that the student in completion type of test don't have the time to guess the answer because they don't have the choices to pick with. So the next one or the last one is the such items can measure both knowledge and comprehension of the subject matter. So if we have advantages, we also have disadvantages in having a completion type of test. So the number 1 in our list is it cannot measure higher levels of objective like application, analysis, synthesis, or evaluation. The next one, it failed to test the reasoning power or the power to explain, to discriminate, illustrate, or estimate. And the last one is these questions are mostly based on memory, since completion type of test is putting an answer to a blank. All right, so let's proceed with the guidelines for writing completion items. All right, so these guidelines will help you make your own completion test. So the first guideline is to avoid giving grammatical clues to the answer expected. So here we have an example. Milan wants to build a fence around his rectangular garden. If his garden is 7 feet by 6 feet square feet and he has 45 feet of wire fence, these are the following questions. Letter A, a blank feet of wire fence is needed to surround his garden. And letter B, and blank feet of wire fence is left. So if the indefinite article is required before a blank, do not use a or an so that the student doesn't know if the correct answer begins with a vowel or a consonant. So the correct way to do this is replace a with he will need blank and replace an with there will be blank. All right, so let's proceed with the second guideline, which is to make the blanks of uniform length. The first example here is wrong, since it doesn't have a similar blank space with the other question. And the second example here is correct, since it has a similar blank space with each other. So let's proceed with the third guideline, which is to avoid equivocal questions. So equivocal question admits two or more interpretations. It is difficult to understand, interpret, or explain because often it has aspects that seem to contradict each other. So for example, we have an equivocal question here. Numbers to be multiplied are called blank. So there are a lot of meanings to it. So it is difficult to interpret or to even understand it. So the correct way to do this is to put a statement that makes the answer be specific. So here, the numbers to be multiplied together are called blank. So, all right. So let's proceed with the fourth guideline, which is to make the answer to the blanks in the same statement, the same in grammatical form. So for example, if 5 is a 0, then x equals 5 is a root. Blank is a factor, and if blank is a factor, then x equals negative 3 is a root. Negative 3 is a 0. So the omitted word in the sentence must be parallel in order to attain the expected answer. So the correct way to do this is, if blank is a factor, then x equals 5 is a root. Then 5 is a 0. And if blank is a factor, then x equals negative 3 is a root. Then negative 3 is a 0. Alright, so let's proceed with the fifth guideline, which is to avoid over-mutilated statements. So for example, in algebra, we often replace one algebraic expression with another that is blank and blank in form. That process is called blank an expression. It can damage something violently by removing a part. So the statement that the intended meaning is lost. Alright? The correct way to do this is, so in algebra, we often replace one algebraic expression with another that is equivalent and simpler in the form. So that process is called blank an expression. So it will not become difficult to understand since we didn't over-mutilated the statements. So let's proceed with the sixth guideline, which is shared to us by Paul Anthony ESCARO.
Number 6, guidelines for writing completion items. Avoid lifting statements directly from the book, which means the question must be short and clear, not directly copied from the book, so that it will not be time consuming for the part of students. So we have an example which is wrong. Don runs 4 miles every morning in the soccer field near his house. After 5 days, he stops running because he moves to another city. What is the total miles he has run? But instead, the correct one is Don runs 4 miles every morning. After 5 days, he has run 4 blank miles in a total. Number 7, guidelines for writing completion items. If possible, put the blank at the end of a statement rather than at the beginning, which means asking for a response before the student understands the intent of the statement can be confusing and may require more reading time. For example, a blank polynomial function that has at most 5x intercepts. But instead, the correct one, a polynomial function that has at most 5x intercepts, is called blank. Number 8, avoid vague statements and see that there is a definite answer to the item. Vague means uncertain, indefinite, or has unclear character or meaning. So give specific question that there should be only one possible correct answer. For example, a first-degree polynomial is blank, but the correct one is a first-degree polynomial has at least blank. In this question may lead to different interpretation since the answer can be linear function or the answer can be at least 2 intercepts. So in this example, we put the word at least so that it will be direct to the point. Number 9, guidelines for writing completion items. Make sure to give all equal credits to each blank, which means points must given be uniform to avoid dispute. For example, instead of a 0-degree polynomial function is a blank. So we do put similar point to each item. So that's it for our guidelines in making a completion type of test. So let's go back to Zion for an interesting activity.
Hi everyone, so let's have a little review from our discussion. So we will answer some questions and you only have 5 seconds to answer. Are you ready? All right. So the first question is, which of the following is not true about the advantages of completion type of test? Letter A, it is easier to prepare and less time consuming. Letter B, these questions are mostly based on memory. And letter C, there is no scope of guesswork and as such, they are more reliable. The 5 seconds starts now. Time's up. So the second question is, which of the following is not true about the disadvantages of completion type of test? Letter A, cannot measure higher levels of objective like application, analysis, synthesis, or evaluation. Letter B, fail to test the reasoning power to explain, discriminate, illustrate, or estimate. And letter C, it is popular and widely used. The timer starts now. Time's up. The number 3 question is, which of the following guidelines is used in this example? The wrong example is a blank polynomial function that has at most 5x intercepts. The correct example is a polynomial function that has at most 5x intercepts is called blank. Letter A, make sure to give equal credits to each of blank. Letter B, if possible, put the blank at the end of the statement rather than at the beginning. Letter C, avoid vague statements and see that there is a definite answer to the item. The timer starts now. Time's up. The fourth question is, which of the following guidelines is used in this example? The wrong example is Don runs 4 miles every morning in a soccer field near his house. After 5 days, he stops running because he moves to another city. What is the total miles he has run? And the correct example is Don runs 4 miles every morning. After 5 days, he has run 4 blank miles in total. Letter A, avoid lifting statements directly from the book. Letter B, avoid equivocal questions. And letter C, avoid giving grammatical clues to the answer expected. The timer starts now. Time's up. The fifth and last question. Which of the following guidelines is used in this example? The wrong example is a 0-degree polynomial function is a blank, which has 1 point. And a first-degree polynomial function is a blank, 2 points. And the correct example is a 0-degree polynomial function is a blank, 1 point. And the first-degree polynomial function is a blank, 1 point. So, letter A, make sure to give equal credits to each blank. Letter B, avoid over-mutilated statements. And letter C, make the blanks of uniform length. The timer starts now. And time's up. So that's it for our questions, and these are the answers for each of the questions. Number 1, letter B. Number 2, letter C. Number 3, letter B. Number 4, letter A. And number 5, letter A. So that's it for our presentation. Thank you very much for listening and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's